everybody, today we're going to be making a coil pot. And for our pot, we're going to need some markers, some model magic, and some scissors. To get started, we're first going to cut our package open. And we're going to take out our clay from our package. If you notice, boys and girls, it's kind of like in the shape of a rectangle. See the rectangular shape there? Well, what we can do is we're going to cut this piece into 6 equal pieces. In order to do that, first, we're going to cut it right through the middle. Okay. And I'm going to kind of mark it so that I know where to cut. So I know that this is going to be cut out in half, long ways. And I want to get 3 equal pieces on this side and 3 equal pieces on this side. So that will give me a total of 6 equal pieces. So if I cut it here in the middle, that would only give me 2 pieces. So I would have to cut it more or less here. So that would give me 1 piece there, 2, and 3. So this is where I'm going to cut right on these lines. And I need to do the same thing on this other side. So I'm going to mark it so that I know where to cut. Okay, so that gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces there. Now I have to just take my clay and cut them out. So now that we have our 6 equal pieces, more or less, we're going to go ahead and take our colored markers and start adding some ink to our 6 pieces. And you guys can choose any colors you want. Think about the colors that you want for your pot. I'm going to start off with this nice teal color here. So what I'm going to do is just take my first piece of clay and I'm going to actually flatten it out a bit. Just press onto it so it could be flat like a, I don't know, like a cookie or something. All right, and then you're going to run your marker right through the surface, fold it in half, and just keep adding more and more ink. And you repeat the same process until your clay starts turning that color. You can start to see your clay turning into that nice teal color. It's not going to be super, super strong, but it will be nice and dyed so that you can actually have a colored piece of clay to work with. Okay, so here we go. Now I have my first piece. Now just kind of mix it in really, really well. Make sure that you tear it open so that you can see the inside of the clay. Make sure that every part of your clay has been dyed. Now you can move on to your next piece. I'm just going to roll it into a little ball. That's my first piece of clay that's already been dyed. Now I can move on to another color. If you want to use the same color all throughout, that's fine. Maybe you want a 1 solid color pot. If you want different colorful pieces in your pot, then you're going to use different colors. So let's go ahead and start dyeing the rest of our pieces with our colored markers. Remember, flatten it out first. Needs to be nice and flat. Run your marker through the surface. Helps to tilt your marker to the side as you're doing this. Fold it. Run it again. And keep repeating the same process. Fold, flatten, add ink. Fold, flatten, add more ink. So that's the process. All right, so now what we're going to do once we have all of our 6 pieces dyed, we're going to start making our coils. So let's put these aside, make sure they're not touching each other, otherwise they're going to get stuck. And we're going to start by shaping our coils. So what you do is just put it flat on your desk and start rolling back and forth until you start seeing that nice long shape. Make sure you hold your hand together, nice and firm and flat. And your fingers should be close together. Try to make your coil nice and even. If you notice that it's a little bit thick on the inside, on the center part, then that's where you roll. If you notice that it's thick on the ends, that's where you roll. So take a look at your coil and see where it needs to be rolled so that it's nice and even. All right, so here's my first coil. With this coil here, I'm going to use this coil for the bottom piece. So this will be what's holding my pot together. And for this piece, I am going to start rolling it like a snail. What you can do is just kind of roll all the way through. So now you have the bottom part. Just tap it on the surface, flip it over and tap it. Just very, very gently, don't squeeze, just tap. And now you have the bottom piece that's going to hold your pot together. Okay, we're gonna set this aside and we're going to take our next piece. Now with this next piece, I'm also going to roll it into a coil. So same idea, make sure that you're rolling nice and evenly all throughout the surface so that it can be nice and even. And keep rolling back and forth the whole entire area. Okay, so here's another great coil. When you have your next coil, you're going to place it on top. And now we're going to start building the walls of our coil pot. So just go around and start at the tip and wrap it around that circular shape. And then you're going to start stacking it on top of each other. Make sure it goes on top, not on the side, on top. So now we're building the walls to our coil pot. Okay, now we can take our next piece and roll it into a coil once again. Make sure your hand is nice and firm. You're rolling. Nice and even all throughout the coil. Try to get it nice and long so that we can have plenty of coil to work with here. Okay, once you have a nice even coil, you're going to start at the tip and you're going to stack it on top of the previous coil. So see how it just sticks onto itself? The clay will stick onto itself without having to put any glue or water. That's the beauty about model magic here that we're working with. Okay, so now I'm starting to see my little coil pot evolve. I'm gonna go on to my next piece and I'm gonna be using this pinkish tone here that I have. And start rolling it into a coil. Once you have that piece, you can start at the tip. Remember to start it at the end and stack it on top. And keep building your pot higher and higher and higher. There we go. Now, before I go all the way with my coils, I'm actually going to add some designs next. So here, I want to add a different type of design. So what I do is with my next piece, instead of making it into a coil, I'm actually going to cut it into small little balls, maybe about the size of a green pea or so. And I'm just gonna make a whole bunch of these. All right, once you feel that you have enough, let's go ahead and start putting these around. And adding that little rim. All the way around. Kind of fix it up with your fingers. Make sure that they get stuck on there really well. Just don't squeeze, just tap. You don't want to get rid of your beautiful shapes that you already have. Now I'm going to make a coil that wraps around on the top so that it can protect my little round beaded frame there. So I'm going to go ahead and make a coil. Remember, your coils need to be nice and even. So try to roll all throughout the coil, on the sides, in the middle, all throughout. Okay, so now I'm going to add my coil right on top. And I'm going to cut it out right there. I don't want to go all the way to the end, so I'm just going to cut it out. Make sure it's stuck on there really well. Tap it, fix it in really, really well. Okay, so now we have a beautiful little design there. Okay, now with the rest of my clay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little handle for it. So if you want to leave it like a little pot, that's fine. This is a great little coil pot that you can just leave it as is. If you want to add handles, you can add handles. If you want to add some sort of a design in here, that's fine too. So it's really up to you how you want to elaborate your pot towards the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a handle for it. And for my handle, I'm actually going to use the rest of my pieces of clay, make them into coils. And I'm actually going to put both of them together. So it could be more colorful. My last coil is going to be nice and colorful. There we go. Now, to make the handle, I'm going to fold it in half, tap it. So I want it nice and thick, okay? And then I'm going to fold it in half again. And then I tap it again. And there is a pretty good thick part that I can make my handle. So now I just twist it. When I twist it, now it has this beautiful effect. It's very swirly. And I can go ahead and place it on my coil pot, just like this. And there you go. Now you have your little coil pot completed. So now it just needs to dry. So we're gonna leave it out in a nice safe spot so that we're not handling it and it can dry. Remember, this is not the real type of clay, so nothing edible or drinkable goes in here. This is just for decoration. So when you're done with your pot, you can just put it, somewhere in a safe spot. It's not super sturdy clay either, so it can collapse, it can fall apart easily. So just keep it in a safe place. And there you go. Now you have your little coil pot ready to display.